Coming up on STO Nation.
I'm Jean. I'm from Framingham, Massachusetts. And Bill, I wanted to know, how do you decide when is it time to turn back? Like this is one that is just better off living another day.
Years of, as Tony said it, how many times we've messed up. So years of experience that maybe turned into a bad experience or a poor experience or scary. And so now let's say I'm 69 years old. I've had this business 35 years and I've been really doing this all my life. So how many times I have messed up so that if I'm out with you all, I don't let that happen to you. Now that's experience, right? But for me to go in anymore, I am not cavalier about much these days. There was a time when I was jumping off of cornices, with a shotgun in my hand, blowing avalanches so I could ski the pilot.
Welcome to another episode of STO Nation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a Classic, Stealth, or Beast Mode subscriber. What's going on, STO Nation? I hope everyone is doing well and getting ready for the holiday season. Speaking of the holiday season, I need to cover some announcements before we begin today's episode. The first big announcement is that we still have open slots for the STO Nation Overlanding New Year's Eve party. It's from December 31st to January 2nd, a Friday through Sunday, and it's approximately 2 hours north of Las Vegas. We're going to be able to go see some really cool sights and learn how to recover yourself if you get stuck, and also how to navigate harsh terrain correctly. But on New Year's Eve, we're going to ring in 2022 with a party to remember. Jason and Emma Walsmith will be there, so we'll have a private concert. Champaign and even apple cider will be provided, along with noisemakers and other fun things to ring in 2022 STO Nation style. So don't get a bad case of FOMO, just come join us. You can email me or go to the Facebook group events page for more details, and I hope to see you there. The second big announcement is that STO Nation now has a newsletter. This newsletter will be either monthly or bi-monthly and will keep you up to date on all things STO Nation. It'll have important announcements, tools that will help you find that perfect mod or salesperson, and what discounts we're working on for you. So if you haven't signed up, go to the STO Nation's website and sign up today. And the last big news is that STO Nation will be taking a holiday break from November through December, which means no new episodes will air after this episode. But don't worry, we will be back with great episodes and content that you've come to expect after the New Year's. The reason why we're taking a break is because the entire team volunteers their personal time to be able to make this podcast happen, and they do it mostly all behind the scenes. Since we started back in March, which has been about 8 months now, we have pumped out over 30 episodes and almost 40 YouTube videos. That's a lot of work that we're doing, but it's all work that we love doing. But it's also important to remember that our friends and family come first, especially during the holiday season. So with that, this will be the last new episode until January 5th, 2022. Another good benefit about taking a break is that it'll be able to give me more time to be able to focus on other things for STO Nation. So for instance, I'm working on the STO Nation store, so you'll be able to pick up some sweet merch, and I'm also planning for upcoming STO Nation meetups. Okay, moving on to today's episode. So if you're currently watching the YouTube version, you'll notice that I didn't record the interview. A quick behind-scenes look was that we were planning to record just audio after dinner because it would have been too dark for video. However, there was an unexpected downtime before dinner, so we decided to record while the sun was up so we didn't have to freeze at night while recording this episode. And because of the quick decision, there wasn't a whole lot of time to set up the video. And go figure, the one time I didn't record video is when we had a picture-perfect backdrop. I've learned my lesson. Unless it's too dark, I'm recording video. But to set the scene, just check out the cover art, then imagine that while you're listening. So I apologize if you're bummed out about not being able to watch the conversation, but I promise the content is the same and totally worth it. Okay, so let's move on to the main event. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Storyteller's first Beyond the Pavement 2021 Overlanding and Recovery course. I had such a blast, and I'm definitely looking forward to attending another one. But the star of the show was our overlanding and recovery guide, Bill Burke. Bill is a legend in his own craft with well over 35 years of experience. He has even represented the United States in the Camel Trophy. If you don't know what that is, just Google Bill Burke's name with Camel Trophy and you'll see what kind of caliber overlanding person Bill really is. I don't want to say too much because Tony Warner, who's part owner of Warner Vans of Utah and the sponsor of the event, gave Bill a worthy introduction. Not only does Tony give valuable input during this episode, but you'll also be able to hear from Tim Bougie, aka TC. TC is the guy who set all this up for Storyteller and who will be hosting future overlanding courses for Storyteller. The goal of this episode is for anyone who didn't attend to be able to still learn some important tips for overlanding. And one of my favorite things while recording a podcast is having a live audience. So the people who are attending the course were sitting in and were able to ask questions directly to Bill. This is a fantastic episode with a very heartwarming ending that speaks volumes of our community. So with that, please sit back, relax, and welcome Bill Burke, Tony Warner, and Tim Bougie to the STO Nation family. Okay, welcome STO Nation. I am here at Beyond the Pavement 2021 that is hosted by Storyteller, and it is sponsored by Warner Vans. So right now I don't have any camera, so if you're watching the YouTube version, I apologize, but no camera. But
it makes it more enjoyable for everybody.
It doesn't mean the content is any less. So to my right, I have TC Bougie, as most of you guys know on the Facebook forum, but his actual name is Tim, not TC. To my left is Tony Warner, and to my far right is none other than Bill Burke.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on to the podcast. So I want to do a quick introduction, and Tim, if you can help me out here. You now work for Storyteller, and you put on this event. So can you just tell us like the genesis of how everything came together, what you / Storyteller's goals are in regards to doing stuff like this? Because I think you were telling me earlier that you want to do it multiple times a year and etc. So
Yeah. So basically, I bought my Storyteller last June. So I've had it for almost a year and a half now, and I put 40-some thousand miles on it. I've gotten to know this community. I love it. Early on, I noticed that there was, I think, a need and a thirst from the community for an event such as this. So fortunately, I met Tony Warner in Logan, Utah at the Adventure Van Expo. Warner Vans of Utah had just come on board, not only as a Storyteller dealer, but they were also renting Storyteller vans. So people who were interested in the mode life would be able to have the opportunity to, fly into Salt Lake City, rent a van, take it down to Moab, or go to Arches and kind of see if it's something that they wanted to invest in. So fortunately for me, Tony also noticed that there was a need for this type of event in the community. So Storyteller bought in on the idea. So over the last couple months, been planning this. Tony and I both knew of Bill Burke, myself through military channels, and then Tony through his off-road community. We both knew of him. So I actually came out here a couple months ago, sat in on one day of Bill's class that he offered to another organization, and I determined it would be a good fit, and I thought he would work well with the Storyteller owners. So after that, kind of hashed it out with Tony. We kind of figured out what the curriculum would look like, for the 3 days. By no means can we make anyone an expert in any one of the topics that we cover in 3 days, but we're trying to give everyone a little bit of a glimpse, to some important skill sets. So map, compass, land navigation, utilizing Onyx Off-Road, Gaia GPS, utilizing radios to communicate when they're going on these outings, and then having 2 full days of off-road driving and recovery instruction from Bill Burke. So we're trying to squeeze a lot in, and really my goal for these events was to make anyone who comes here, any Storyteller owner, a better owner, and then by doing that we strengthen the community and strengthen the brand. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring to the table.
And then Tony, so I know that you are an Overland fanatic and you have a pretty nice Land Cruiser. I don't know. Is it pretty nice? You can tell us. But
That one's someone else's now.
You guys are the sponsors, so let me ask you this. Why did you decide to team up with Storyteller and be the sponsor for this event?
Great question. I'm a big believer that we underutilize the things that we have, and that education is the way that we unlock experience. And unfortunately, in most cases, you just have to get out and try it. By no means am I the expert. I've just made a lot of mistakes, and I'm trying to make sure other people don't make the mistakes I made, whether that's spending too much money on the wrong stuff or extra stuff you don't need, or getting out and breaking stuff and ruining an experience. So these vans are extremely capable from the chassis perspective, and then when you add to it the capabilities that you have with the Volta system and the other systems that Storyteller has put together, you've really got a great off-grid vehicle that you can spend a lot of time in amazing places, but if you don't have the confidence and the skill set to do that, you never really get to unlock the potential. So to me, it was more about unlocking the potential, enhancing the experience, and creating better stories.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sponsoring. So if anybody's in the Salt Lake City, you obviously rent Storytellers and you're about to sell them. But if they want to get service, what do you guys offer?
So thanks for asking. And we've got space for about 27 sprinters in our shop. We've got 14 techs. We are same day A and B service as long as you don't show up at the end of the day. For other maintenance and repairs, we ask that you call and schedule an appointment. We've got a great team. We're dedicated just to Mercedes and Freightliner sprinters, Mercedes vans. So we've got some things coming down the pipe, but we look forward to servicing you. And then we've got around 75 vans in our rental fleet, and we're working on augmenting that. That's a mix of passenger, cargo, and recreational van. And we've got currently 2, adding 2 more. And we're going to have a beast for rent out of Moab, Utah in the next couple of weeks or months.
Well, that's pretty cool. Awesome. Sounds like you guys have a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. Because there's no YouTube version, we have some of the participants in this overlanding class that are watching it in our live audience. So for you guys out there, if you guys have any questions for Bill or maybe even Tim or Tony.
So I think Bill deserves a proper intro. Do you mind if I take a run of that?
Run the thing. Run the thing. You're the sponsor, so you still need to speak a little bit.
Well, to me, Bill's the star of the show, and then the Storyteller owners that showed up are really the star of the show. I'm just here to make sure you guys have good food to eat, no one gets too hurt, or the vans don't get hurt beyond what we can repair or replace. But to me, the story kind of starts with Bill, because Bill's the well that we're drawing upon, right? So Bill is what you might call an Olympian of four-wheel drive, representing the United States, which started with the Camel Trophy. And since you don't have us on YouTube, I have something better for you. Check out Camel Trophy. Was it 91, Bill?
1991 is I competed, yes.
So look up the 1991 Camel Trophy if you want a better perspective on the kind of things that Bill does. So from a military background to meeting physical requirements, team leadership skills, etc. So we're out here doing some pretty basic four-wheel drive things, and Bill was out there bushwhacking through jungles, sinking Land Rover Discoveries in rivers and swamps, drying them out, getting them going again, and crossing third world countries. Just as a quick intro, aside from that, he's worked with several major vehicle manufacturers or modifiers to help launch education programs. So for what we're doing here, it was just a natural fit. He's been very great in understanding the vehicle's capabilities and the class, and finding appropriate terrain to train us. And the primary objective is keeping us safe and enabling us to do more and better things.
That's a great introduction.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And a little plug for Bill is you don't have to wait for Storyteller to get training from Bill.
That's true.
Is that right? bb4wa.com.
That is correct. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the show notes, so if you guys want to sign up, you'll know how to contact Bill. I'll also put his personal cell phone number in there, wink, wink.
I will tell you,
Go
though,
for
it is not easy to get into Train with Bill. We're very fortunate that he was able to carve out 2 days to spend with Storyteller owners because he's typically booked throughout the year. So we're lucky.
Yeah, I don't find that surprising at all. I've learned so much in the last 2 days, and I mean, I know how to change a tire all by myself because of you. Well, because of this course.
Hey,
so.
that was me.
That was Tony. Props to Tony. Yeah.
But my main goal that I wanted to accomplish was accomplished, and I'm pretty sure everyone else out here has been accomplished. But Bill, so let's move the spotlight to you. I have 2 questions before I open it up to the audience. The first one is why are you so passionate about overlanding? And then the follow-up question is, over the 35 years, right, that you've been overlanding,
Well, keep going.
approximately 30 to 50 years. No, I'm just joking. Approximately 35 years of your overlanding experience. What is the number one thing that you've learned about yourself doing it?
Holy cow. I don't know if I can get through the doorway now on this one. You guys are championing me so heavy here. I'm just a regular guy. But I just love being outdoors. That's number one. Number two, when I was a kid growing up, my scoutmaster, even my father, great mentors, they were keen about paying it forward. And so, all the skill sets that I've learned through Boy Scouts and the Army and driving trucks and lumberjack, whatever, all the kind of stuff I've done, I've always wanted to be able to share that with folks, that they have a better time out in the outdoors and they're safer for it. And somehow I get logged in with vehicles, sport utilities early on, and I think that's because maybe the military career is, I was training with wheeled and tracked vehicles, adult education, and then I wanted to be an outdoor educator, and I just kind of made it happen. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So out of all your experiences, what's the number one thing you've learned about yourself doing it?
Yeah, back to that. I'm just good at it. That's what I've learned, and I accept it. I am humbled by the fact that you all have sought me out. Storyteller, Warner Vans. I'm humbled by that people like of your caliber seek me to do the training and share my experiences with you. I suppose I've learned other things. I've always was a patient person, although beware the wrath of a patient man is a cliche that I use once in a while. But I think the fact is that with the people I meet, I enjoy doing that. So the one of the big thing I take away about myself is that I like to meet the people, and being outdoors and with the vehicle or whatever platform that you want to use to get me out there, I just enjoy being around people. And I'm a people person, and I'm a gypsy, so it works really well with these traveling, car camping, and you mentioned overlanding. That venue to get us out to these places.
Okay. So I have, well, first of all, I'm going to open up any questions to the audience. Okay, we have one. If you can come up here, please, ma'am, and just say your first name and where you're from and your question.
I'm Jean. I'm from Framingham, Massachusetts. And Bill, I wanted to know, how do you decide when is it time to turn back? Like this is one that is just better off living another day.
Years of, as Tony said, how many times we've messed up. So years of experience that maybe turned into a bad experience or a poor experience or scary. And so now let's say I'm 69 years old. I've had this business 35 years, and I've been really doing this all my life. So how many times I have messed up so that if I'm out with you all, I don't let that happen to you. Now that's experience, right? But for me to go in anymore, I am not cavalier about much these days. There was a time when I was jumping off of cornices, with a shotgun in my hand, blowing avalanches so I could ski the powder, So times I've flopped trucks on their side and done silly things and, put a Harley on its side and scraped underneath the truck. So, I've done those silly things, and I guess it's not bragging, but what it is it's given me the experience to say, okay, folks, this is time. The weather looks inclement. The trucks are doing the best they can, and you're having a good time. But I'm seeing a couple of frowns. So let's go find a camp spot, build a fire, and get everybody warm. So it just takes time to figure that out. From a newcomer perspective, that's the danger. Because these vehicles, we talk to land management agencies and enforcement officers and other people in the industry, and the vehicles are so capable. And people tend to push the vehicle because it will go blindly where they point it. And that can be a problem. And so, props to, Storyteller and Warner Vans for doing this kind of class so that you get an understanding of, okay, how can we push the trucks? We did some, kind of crazy stuff with these big vans. The mud was slippery and sloppy. We had those rocks we had to crawl through and, get through the mud holes and things like that. And it was outside the wheelhouse of a lot of folks. And so that's how you gained what I call proper experience, if you will. And with that proper experience, then comes, you're like, okay, great, I can push through it a little bit for. So if you're a skier, you start on the greens. Next thing you know, you're a little harder green going to blue. Next thing you know, you're in the blues. And if you're comfortable with blues, stay on the blue. If you want to push it a little bit, maybe the Storyteller van is not the rock buggy you think it is. So let's keep it that way and use the skill sets that we taught and then further that with your own adventures.
Awesome. That's a great answer. So I have a follow-up question. So a lot of people, when we first started this class, we were asked what's the number one thing we wanted to take out of this course. And the majority of the answers was confidence. So my question to you is, what's the best way to instill confidence if we can't book a class and we're out there all by ourselves? And like what she just asked, like, how do we know? Should we push it? Should we not? What's the best way to build confidence?
Well, experience, of course, and knowing your vehicle. Knowing how to fix the things. So again, these people took the class and took some training, and that's really what I do. But we cannot tell. Now, I don't know everybody here, but it looked like there are some capable drivers and some people who know how to tinker and work on their own trucks. So they've evolved in that direction. So maybe get somebody and go out with a couple of vans or a couple of people who have like, hey, I've been on this trip to the Baja before. I know where the fish joints are. I know what the road is. And I know where the llanteras are to fix the tires. And then you kind of build up on that. And then that person says, okay, I've done 3 or 4 of those trips. Maybe I can go to the next level and go, up to the Mojave Road or something and recon that or spot and say, okay, I'm going to take a couple of Storyteller vans or, adventure vans up that way. So I think that's how it's compounded. But it is experience. And one has to realize that as we mature, we realize that the negative aspects and that little feeling in our tummy, we listen to it more and more. When I was 18, jumping out of an aircraft with a gun in my hand, that's a different story. Now we've kind of gone through that whole thing, and we're trying to figure out, okay, I really want to have a good time, and I don't care if I go to Guatemala or up the northern province of Alberta or whatever. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to trust the van. So I think the experience is, I'm going to say this, it's incumbent upon the drivers and their spouses or spotters or whatever to learn about the truck, read that owner's manual, crawl around underneath it like we've talked about this weekend, look at all the things that are hanging there, and know how to change a tire, know how to, refill your fuel tanks and, how the house part of it, works. And then, get used to doing that, living in it, and push it. And for the most part, don't do reckless things that if my tummy and my head says, I'm listening right now. Okay. And that's what I expect for folks who want to go out there and learn about adventure.
Yeah. And I think it was yesterday when we first started, actually. So, you could probably see some photos on Instagram and some other platforms, but we went up this pretty steep hill, and a lot of us were like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And so, but you gave the advice of like, just breathe, right? And that's probably one of the things I personally am going to take from this is that you got to be calm, you got to be cool, and you got to breathe, and you got to be able to rationally think. And I think the stressors that you put us through this weekend thus far we've been able to practice that, because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. But is there any other questions out there in the audience? Yes, come on up.
I'm Kirsten. This is a follow-up on something you mentioned. So you said it's like skiing, start with green, then blues, then blacks, double blacks. So we spent a lot of time on the maps. So based on looking at the maps, is there a way for us to determine what's a green, a blue, a black, and a double black for us, like when we go from here on our own, so that we kind of move up the rung of experience?
Yeah, where do you find the ratings, or how do you get that experience that says that what road is which and what should I be traveling? There are some trail books out there.
Go ahead. Yeah, I don't care.
Some trail books out there. Charles F. Wells, Fun Treks. He offers green, blue, black, black diamond, red with his maps. The pages in the book are kind of small maps like of a trail. And then, the others you can do Latitude 40, which is a map company, National Geographic. And some of those are recreational maps, and they will have a green, blue, black diamond on there, but that is mostly for mountain bikers. So if you see a black diamond, it's probably technical for a mountain biker, then I might drive up to it and kind of, I'm not bringing the van down that. Okay. From your experience level, what we've done this week, I'm considering we did mostly easy to moderate blues. Okay. For the van. All right, now that's for the average driver in your van. Okay, now you look at my truck, one of my Rovers or whatever it is, that's a little bit more set up, or, a bigger Jeep. But for the average driver and all that, I think we've done a moderate blue because of the mud and the wetness and the slippery tires on those rocks and the weather itself. So, maybe on a dry day, it might be an easy blue. Okay, so that gives you an idea of where you're at from an experience level. This is what you've experienced. Obviously, it's my job as a guide and instructor to pick the appropriate terrain, but I do want to push you. And so I will pick a terrain that you may not normally drive on because I need you to push a little bit so that I can get you to understand that this van is quite capable. I mean, it is indeed very capable, okay? And so in those hands now that are experienced, can you push a bond, a little bit harder between? And there's a couple of sections here off the Kokopelli is where we're at that have some steeper steps and things like that you may have to put max tracks to get up on them on the van because you need the ramps and not the steps because of the dingleberries underneath, like the heater exhaust and stuff like that, which is normal, okay? So, yeah, you can push the trucks, but as from that perspective. Now, to your question, truly, you cannot tell that until you get really used to reading the topography. And so you can look at that and you can say a road goes through here and the topographic lines do this and do that. And is it going through a drainage? Do I have to cross a drainage that may stick my truck because the banks of the drainage are too steep? So there is that. And that comes from knowing how to read, I'm going to tell you, a paper map. You can read all these data, whatever they mention, non-X or whatever it is, guy, all that kind of stuff. They kind of show you the topography, but a big paper map lays you the whole picture out. And so you can see where the other rows might go if you can't take the section you're on. And so I think it's super important to learn how to read the maps. And then as you burn the terrain, you learn or take the roads, you start learning that this is what the map is telling me. And as I'm getting to that area, now I can say, ooh, okay, that looks pretty steep there. Maybe I should walk it first. And do not commit, and this is what we've talked about, do not commit to a down if you don't think you can get back up. Okay, and that's what I think a lot of the take-home, Tim has been teaching that navigation stuff right spot on, okay, giving you all the tools digitally and paper map and then compass-wise. And so to me, that's the important part of it is once you start learning that kind of stuff. Now, there is a website, I think it's called traildamage.com. Okay, and you can Google them, and then you can say, hey, and it's usually Jeep stuff. So you can say, hey, I'm going to go Jeeping in the Northern California forest. And it'll come up, and it'll tell you, there might be someone that'll tell you the trailhead is here. It takes about 2 hours to get there from Redding, let's say. The trail is, we rate it as a blue, and there is an obstacle here, there's an obstacle there. So there are these resources that are available these days on the interweb. Before you just had to go in and poke your nose in, like, okay, that's a good one. But traildamage.com is a good one. And then there's a couple of others out there also that some people may know of, but that's the easiest access to that. And then if anything else, I just kind of, Google, hey, Jeep trails in Pennsylvania and see what comes up. And then realize that, okay, it might be Jeep trails and some guy on a 42-inch tire, but you can poke your nose in, right? And if you don't like it, turn around, go somewhere else.
Do you mind if I chime in on this one?
No, please.
So, first of all, I think it needs to be clarified that there's no shame in sticking in the greens or blues, right? I think that there's this perception that if your van is not fully outfitted or fully kitted out, that you shouldn't be doing these kinds of things. And part of my intent with this class is to show, I actually want to throw a pie in the face on that, right? Saying, if you start getting into those harder trails, you're going to find that they're not as enjoyable. What I mean by that is the terrain is miserable, okay? Like even in the best built vehicle or the most modern side-by-side, they're not highly enjoyable unless that's like your specific interest, right? In my mind, if I'm buying a van with a house in it, I'm not looking to rattle the damn thing apart. I'm looking to get to a unique place, have a unique experience that's enjoyable, okay? So when we're talking about these easier trail ratings, like there's nothing wrong with that. And to me, the experiences I've had with my family, the most enjoyable ones are the ones where we got out away from people, we saw some amazing country, and then I had a little bit of fun because we hit a few little obstacles, or it was a fun sweeping road that we could kind of rip through, right? So the idea there with this course in my mind is, let's not make them turn around at that one little obstacle that the van's fully capable of doing, right? As far as finding trails that are applicable for the vans, I've found the more modern vehicles have like pretty detailed maps, but you have to zoom in, okay? So if you can find a road on your GPS in your vehicle, take the time to stop, slide through, find out where it goes, look at the paths, and those are some of the best adventures I've had because a couple things. One, I know I'm not going to get in trouble. I can get out. Two, I can normally find a path to another highway or interstate to not take the main interstate. Does that make sense? Like take the back road. To me, the enjoyable experience is when you're taking the back road. You take the interstate when you need to get somewhere fast. So
we want to keep the F in fun, right? Okay. And indeed, so you asked me about levels. Okay. For me, I'd stick to the fun roads. The track we took in here was fairly technical as far as I'm concerned for the vans. All right. I don't know if I'd go any harder than that, but you still want to poke your nose in. Forest Service roads are phenomenal, and the Forest Service maps are very helpful in that respect. And there's forests everywhere, So I follow with Tony what he's saying. You want to have fun with these. Let the family, the dogs, the kids, whatever, go out, get to a cool viewpoint, find a nice road there, and then explore further. And I'm all about back road touring. Yeah.
One last point is, normally you can get a good idea when you watch the traffic coming in and out of a road. What I mean by that is if it's all razors and four-wheelers and motorcycles, chances are you're probably going the wrong direction. Not all the time, right? Like if there's not a Suburban coming out or an F-150 or something like that, or at least a semi-stock Jeep, then you're probably in the wrong place. But you see those other four-wheel drives going through, that's a pretty good indicator that you're in a good place. Does that make sense? So just watch for those kind of things. And normally the BLM, I've noticed, is getting a lot better about putting qualifier obstacles at the beginning of trails. So normally if there's somewhere you're not supposed to be, there's something in the beginning to let you know, right? So just watch for the signs.
Great question, great answers. Thank you, gentlemen. I got another question. Here we go.
This is Graham Bartoff from Seattle. So I think we actually have a couple. So we've been really lucky over the last couple days to be in this area where we're traveling around with 14 vans. We're not restricted, but just south of here, of course, is Moab, where it's a lot more restricted. We're seeing that in a lot of other places. Can any of you kind of speak to what you're seeing, what the direction you think is really going to be in terms of access for vans, for groups, for four-wheel drive, and then what we can do as well as van owners and users to kind of help preserve that access to the best that we can?
I've got a few. Bill, you probably know better than me, but I'll chime in what I know. So the number one thing is just being responsible outdoors. The best way to restrict access is to do dumb things, right? Littering, going off the trail, spinning tires unnecessarily, camping where you're not supposed to, trespassing. All those things contribute to limiting access. The government may not like to admit it, but it's a business. So the things that support open access are taxes on UTVs, motorcycles, things like that, right? There's also programs you can join, like there's Tread Lightly. They have a whole new education series, and that's, I think, is often overlooked. But that teaches you, like, they're going to tell you what the BLM is looking for when they're out. Like, we've seen, 2 Rangers today? So what are they looking for? Are you parked on a natural piece of ground, or are you parked on a natural roadway or parking space, right? So they're working, I believe they're working to keep access open. And I think education's a big part of that. If things aren't being used, like I believe in Colorado, you can speak to this better than I can, but they're monitoring use on trails and they're shutting down the ones that aren't being used, and then they're dumping funds into the ones that are. So I think the other thing that helps keep access open is not going to the overpopular areas, right? It's tempting, but at the same time, think of the experience that you're going to have going to that overpopulated or overpopular place versus coming out to somewhere more remote and trying something new, right? Like, I remember I fell in love with Moab when all you had was a guidebook. That same book he's talking about now, it has waypoints, and if you go do Hell's Revenge nowadays, it's almost like you're walking through a line at Disneyland. There's so many ropes and chains and paint on the rock. It's kind of lost its luster, if you ask me. But Bill, you probably, or local clubs too, right? Like I know in Utah there's a group called Expedition Utah, and I believe Kurt Williams started that. He's a great advocate for trail access, and they do a lot of volunteer work. So they'll adopt a trail and they'll go clean up the trail, and the BLM notices that. So I wouldn't be afraid to get involved in those kind of groups. Those are great ways to meet people, learn new trails, and but don't miss out on the opportunities to give back to keep access open. Then the last thing I would say is you still have freedom of speech and you have access to your local legislation, your senators. Let them know that, say, hey, I paid X $1,000 of sales tax on my van, and I expect and want to be able to use the public lands, and I want to do it responsibly, but I need you to make sure that you're doing your part to help make sure I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Respected access is open access. That's the bottom line. Tread lightly, as you mentioned. It's a good spokesperson for all of us. There's others, local clubs, United Four-Wheel Drive Association, Utah Four-Wheel Drive Association, Colorado. They all have these associations. My home club is very active in land use and opening up new roads, which is rare. The popular spots, I look at them like ski resorts, if you will, like Whistler, Aspen. People want to go there for a destination, and then they get overloved. Moab is going through a growth period right now, and so the land management agencies and even the local county is trying to figure out what to do with the abundance of people, etc. But it is a great place. So we've got to be careful about, how we recreate and where we go. And so, yes, taking a voice and being, honestly, being politically active on that kind of a front is a big thing. Your dollars can open up a lot of that, but also it's personal, choice. As far as areas that are getting highly overused, I think they're loving it to death, and the management people are trying to figure that out right now. We have the opportunity to expand our horizons and not necessarily go to the popular places. There's so much more out there that your vans can access. I could mention a lot of roads, but then now you get 10,000 people going there because I mentioned it. So I'm a guide. I've been an outfitter guide for 35 years, and a little bit longer. I've been a dirt bag out west for 50 years, and that takes a lot of exploring. A lot of people want to say, Bill, can you tell us all your favorite trails and we can load it up so that 1,000 other people can come and visit? And it's kind of not what a guide does, okay? But sharing it with you all, because basically you're my friends and clients now, right? So that's a big story there.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about hiring a guide for a couple of reasons, right? It's tempting to go organize a large group, but if the BLM sees large groups organizing and frequenting, that creates concern for them, correct? Because is there not regulations around that, or?
There are in certain areas. So, for example, in the Needles District, Canyonlands, and Arches, there is a vehicle cap. 5 vehicles per group at a time going through Elephant Hill. No, I would not take your van over Elephant Hill, okay? But you could go in the back way through Bobby's Hole or Rune Park, all right? But there are caps. With a guide, they prefer that I have no more than 7 or 8 trucks. This was a special event, so we allowed that to happen. With bigger groups, they want to make sure that you're somewhat monitored and not being reckless. Now, the idea of your vans is you're not going to be doing crazy Jeepy stuff, if you will, all right? Not putting Jeeps down, but so there's that. To expand your horizons, there's all sorts of roads in the BLM and the Forest Service. The parks are there for us to access. You go through that, but yeah, they're looking at Moab Resource Area is looking at caps, okay, because they're getting overpopulated. Grand Junction, which we've been in for this past week, there are no caps on us right now. And that's why the enforcement officer, when I talked to him, he's like, hey, man, what's going on? This is what we're doing. He said, okay, you're Bill Burke. I'm a permitted outfitter guide. And it's like, good deal. Then we know that you people are in good hands. And so you're not going to let them mess up, right? So, I mean, there's that benefit of going out with a guide who knows the desert, knows where the secret spots are, et cetera, et cetera. As far as the numbers go, generally, if I do a private guided tour, I like 5 or 6 or 7 trucks, maybe. Okay, usually it's a 5-to-1 guide factor is what they like on the average climbing or skiing or things like that. You put 6 or 7 together, the impact becomes bigger, but scales of economy and that kind of thing. To do a big group like this is a corporate thing, and that's appropriate because we are staying on established roads. Well marked, well signed, and you're being led by a permitted guide, and you're running into my permit. Now, when you go out with other folks, that's a different story, and they're like, hey, I know this crazy trail over here, let's go there, and then people get in trouble, and there's really no one responsible other than to yourself. You get in trouble, you flop a truck on the side, and it becomes a mess. Then it's a bad time. And like Tony and Tim were saying earlier, then you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to go, fly fishing or play golf or something, So we do want to make sure that we represent ourselves well out there. And the demographic that we have here, it means that you're concerned and you care. And that's a big plus for any of the land managers out here these days.
Thank you for the question, Graham. Great answers. So I can smell dinner right now. I don't know about you guys, but I'll open it up to one more question from the audience.
Can I ask the question of the audience?
Sure.
I'd just like to maybe hear from one of the participants, if you'd just like to maybe tell us about your experience out here the last 2 days. We got one more day to go, or at least a half day, but if anyone out there would just, tell us what you thought about Beyond the Pavement so far.
Anyone?
Or not.
We still have a half a day, Tim. No, I'm just joking.
I see Emma walking up.
Here comes Emma.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Where you're from, question or answer.
Say what I want to say. All right. Emma Walsmith. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and My husband Jason and I have been traveling around in our classic 2020 Storyteller Overland since July of 2020. And we've done about 74,000 miles at this point, mostly on the interstate. It is my daily driver, but I don't drive very much when I'm home. These last 2 days took our van from being a really awesome home on wheels, but also an incredible grocery getter, to being a multifaceted, really strong, trustworthy vehicle that we can actually sincerely refer to as an adventure van. You know, we call it an adventure van, but our adventures have been a lot of that highway time, and no regrets there. We love it. But now we know that when we have a little bit of time and we're in a location where the opportunity is present, that we have the skills and the vehicle we need in order to be able to get a little further and go see some beautiful sights like we're surrounded by right now. So I'm just uber grateful. I know my van better than I did 72 hours ago. That's for sure.
You didn't know your van did yoga, did you?
I think that the whole idea, I'm a ranch exit kind of person. Now they're starting to name them. You know, it used to be out here, be ranch exit, no service. I'm like, yep, that's me. Get off the highway for a mile or two, go back in. Oh wow, check at this now. Whoa, I didn't know there were tortoise back here. So when I travel, I take those ranch exit or the no name exits or no services exits, and just wander down that road and see where it's going. Right, there's a fork in the wood. I flip a coin and take it. Okay, and so to me, that's what your vans are all about, and you're living that adventure. And again, I am humbled by being here with you guys. It's phenomenal to see that.
Great question, Tim. Thank you. You want to be the co-host for the next episode?
No, I'm busy.
All right, so I have 2 questions, and the second to last question is for all 3 of you, and we'll start with Bill. But out of the last 2 days that we've been out here, what have you learned about the Storyteller Overland van?
Well, I knew it was a good build on a classic platform. And what I learned was that the owners are willing to come out and follow some goofy guy like me and get muddy and cold and rained on and stand around a fire and talk about all sorts of cool things, stories galore, hence the name Storyteller. I think that's a great name. So I've learned that these people are having a good time, and from the van, and that it's quite capable given the right circumstance, and I think it's a heck of a product. I'm going to tell you that.
I agree. Tim, my question for you is, I know you have some overlanding experience and you have a 2020 Storyteller, right? So you've been around the block for at least a year. Last 2 days, what have you learned from Bill?
So I've learned from Bill, and I've told a lot of the people here, recovery is a pretty intricate thing, and there's a lot of equipment and education and training that goes into using it properly. So what I think I've learned is that as much as I appreciate owners that get a new van, get all the equipment, I think what I really kind of knew before, but what this training reinforced is how vital a component is having the equipment, but then getting some proper training. That's really what's going to make you, a better owner, an asset to the community, an asset to your family or whoever else is joining you on these adventures.
Awesome. So my question for you, Tony, is I know you have tons of overlanding experience, but what have you learned this weekend?
I wouldn't say I have tons of overlanding experience, especially in this group. I would say I continually learn that it's more about a person's attitude than it is about the hardware, right? I had a chance to ride in one of the vans going up that climb, and I was standing up watching. And to me, the thing I learned is that these people, these owners are very capable. They just haven't had the controlled environment to test themselves and prove themselves to themselves. So to me, the lesson was more about the human side of overlanding than a technical piece of gear or a technical aspect of the vehicle. And to me, that's a really exciting part and the thing that keeps me coming back. Like, I don't get excited very often about going over a more difficult obstacle or a longer trip. To me, it's about being able to bring new people in that maybe weren't inclined to do it and unlock great experiences to them. So to me, it was just learning how capable people are and learning to not assume one way or the other.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. Thank you. So my last question, and the way that I end every podcast, and this is directed solely for Bill, which is, now that you've been hanging around us for the last 48 hours in the Storyteller community, for better or for worse, should I say, but what does it mean for you to be part of the STO Nation community?
Again,
Learned what a podcast is.
Yeah, what's a pod? What's a pod? Is that like a sunflower seed thing or something?
Why do you cast it?
Yes. No, it is. Yeah. Hey, I joined on to fuel injection when it was time. No, I love to see. It might be an overused term, but I love to see the tribe that you all have developed. I love to see the tribe. You people are special, and it means a lot to me to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I think I speak for everyone that we are more than ecstatic to have you part of the STO Nation community. So we really appreciate it. So thank you, Bill. I think
My pleasure.
that's a great way to end the podcast. I thank the beautiful audience out there. I thank Tim for putting this on. I thank Tony for sponsoring it. And, of course, Bill for making sure we don't die and we learn stuff.
Let's remember, it wouldn't have happened if it didn't sell out, right?
I'm pretty sure.
If the people didn't sign up,
Yeah, that's true.
it wouldn't have happened.
And I know there's
Good
no
point.
video, so I want everyone to know that no one just got choked up just now. I just want you guys to know that.
It wasn't cued.
Hey, it's dripping on your mic, Tim.
Thank you, gentlemen, and beautiful audience and STO Nation community. Thank you for attending. And until the next time, I can't wait to share the road with you.
Oh, mic drop.
STO Nation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Young-Wha Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golson.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
and the webmaster is
Peng Shi.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Young-Wha with STO Nation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.